Alright. What's going on? I'm here. Will's here. You know how it is. Why are you watching the stream?
I'm your mod.
Okay, whatever. Alright. Gonna get into some Alien Isolation. Gonna be real spooky. Alright, launching it up. You ready, Will?
Oh, yes.
Alright.
Oh, spooky intro.
Okay, now turn the audio a bit. Make sure it's okay. Okay, we're good. Turn off. If you can't tell, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm trying to deal with it. Alright. Whoa, that's going really fast. Alright, here we go. Alien Isolation. Press the any key. There's no fucking any key, god damn it. Alright, well, hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you later. Oh, alright, you know what? I win. We'll just go. Alright. Alien Isolation. Okay, that, you know, I'm sorry. That joke has been done so many times. I'm really sorry about that one. Alright, anyway. Terrible. Alright, we're playing Alien Isolation. I said that about 3 times now. I'm not sure. I've already played this a little bit, but I haven't actually played like most of the game, so it's gonna be real spooky. I got 2 DLC. One of them came with the survivor mode. It's not even a DLC, but you know, whatever. We're gonna be doing the court. I missed. I'm fucking stupid. All right. We're not gonna continue game because I don't. You haven't seen it. You don't know what's happening.
How do you know that happened?
I haven't uploaded it, so they don't know where I'm at. It'll be totally different. Okay, we're gonna start off here. What difficulty do you think we should do, Will?
Pick a number on my hand.
How does this have anything to do with anything?
Just pick a number.
That's not a number. That's a finger. Stupid.
Pick a finger on my hand.
I did.
Okay, this one?
Yeah.
Alright, you're playing on nightmare difficulty.
No.
Fine, medium. That's it.
Alright, medium.
Yeah, okay.
Medium. Okay, medium. That I can go with. You want it? Yeah. Shut up. Brightness. Okay. There. That's where it should be. But you know what? Let's go.
I don't think that's how you're supposed to do it.
It's how I do it.
But then you're gonna get less spook out of the spook.
But then the YouTubers can see it. YouTube makes videos all pretty dim. See ya! Oh, wrong game, sorry.
Hey, I think your game thing broke. Oh, no, there it is.
Shut up, Will, you don't know what you're doing. Who's the streamer here?
Final
We both
report of
are.
the commercial
Shit.
starship Nostromo. Third officer reporting.
Shh. Ripley's talking. It's epic.
The other members of the crew. Kane. Lambert.
I just really don't know
Parker.
what's happening.
No, I don't.
You can read the
Brett.
subtitles.
The other members
Ash.
of the crew, Kane, Lambert, Parker, Brett, Ash, Captain
And Captain
I
Dallas.
can hear that. It's Ripley.
Are
Amanda
dead.
Ripley, she's telling me what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Bet you didn't know that the lead lighting artist.
Cargo and ship destroyed.
I'm not, because I wasn't looking. I was talking to you.
I should reach the frontier in about 6 weeks. With a little luck, the network will pick me up.
Bro, there's no Wi-Fi in space. I'm sorry to tell you this.
This is Ripley. Last survivor of the
Last Survivor.
Nostromo.
Hey, that's one of the DLCs I have.
Signing off.
Title card's looking a little bit messed up there. I think you need to get your GPU checked out. Shut up, Will.
I mean, you're talking to me.
Ooh, cutscene. Cutscene. Wacky. It's wacky epic.
Ripley,
How are you looking at that? We're gonna be done.
I'm Samuels. I work for the company.
Fuck you, Sam. I already hate you. Yeah.
It's
Fuck you,
about
Sam.
your
This
mother.
company sucks. Ooh.
We think we may have found her, Amanda.
Oh, I found it. Whoa, that's
Is she
crazy.
missing?
Yeah.
A commercial vessel, the Anisadora,
Ripley,
has
like,
recovered what we
from
believe
the
to be
Alien
the
movie.
flight recorder unit of the
Isn't it?
Nostromo.
Watched it, Alien.
Okay,
Where?
well, you know what? You can just.
Zeta Reticula.
Yeah.
What did it tell you?
stay there.
We
I'm
don't
using
know.
your strings get used.
The unit was taken to Sevastopol station. It's proprietorial material, so the company wants it to be collected as soon as possible.
Why'd it get really quiet?
Sevastopol's a supply depot in the region. It's a permanent free port.
I know what it
facility.
is.
Guys, cutscene's going on for so long. I'm bored. Let's go into gameplay.
Transit's
Come
arranged.
on.
They are being
There's a courier ship called the Torrens heading out that way in 2 days.
Oh yeah,
We're
well,
going
we
to
should
travel
be
out.
like,
We?
pay attention. It's
Me
story.
and another exec. And you, if you're willing.
I don't want to say that line. That would be very bad.
Look, Ripley, when this job came across my desk, I read the case history.
Ripley's World Records? Guinness World Records?
I know why
He's
you're
Guinness
working in
Book
the
of World
region
Records.
where
you
she
know?
went missing.
With that one guy that could like do the thing with his eye,
You're still
and
looking,
this one guy put
aren't
like
you?
a string from here to out his mouth.
I've
It was
been
cool.
cleared
You
to
mean
offer
Ripley's
you a
Believe It or Not?
place on the Torrens if you want to come
Ripley's
along.
Book of World.
That's
Guinness
Guinness.
World
That's
Records.
Guinness Book of World
No,
Records.
it's
Maybe.
Ripley's. I have it in my house.
There'll be some.
I will bring it here next
There's
time.
Guinness Book of World Records and
No,
Ripley's
it's
Believe It or Not.
Ripley's Guinness Book of World Records.
Well, that's wacky. What? Okay. Well, there must have been a crossover episode that I missed.
It's not an episode. It's a book.
Isn't it?
No, it's not.
It is.
No, because you can't hear
What?
books.
What? Eyes. Why do we have one?
Wait, is that an eye?
Why do we only have a top eyelid? We only have a top eyelid. Ooh, hyperspace.
I'm
Hyperspace.
not concerned about the fact that we only have one eye.
Hyperspace is pretty wacky.
It is.
I mean, like, what if you just didn't like, like,
Whoa,
leg,
whoa.
leg, toes, feet, feet. Alright, let's go. Hit the button. Oh, hand! Hand was gone for a second there. Hey, Ripley, yep, that's us. Let's steal all their stuff real quick.
You're narrating really well for your fingers.
Let's close that. Yeah, efficient looks. Close. No. Get dressed. Uh-huh. Oh, I can't see my feet anymore, bro. Where's my feet? Oh, that's so
Of
sad.
course you wouldn't see your feet.
Yeah, bro. Feet are epic. Taking all your shit. Let's take a
You're
shower.
gonna lose half your subscribers. No, you won't, because people don't watch this.
Get up, bro. Take a shower. Alright. Let's turn that off. Be power efficient. Steal more stuff. Let's put in my locker and get dressed at the same time. Oh, there's nothing in there. Just a completely empty locker. That makes sense. Alright. Ooh, mission complete. Bro, alright. We win. Save my game. Yes. Save. Alright. More stuff to steal. You want all that? Let's look in the terminal. If you want to see it, just pause it. I've already read it. I don't care. Look, see, there it is. Bam, that's so wacky. Alright, I'm done. Vent. That's a round vent.
Oh,
Alright, let's go. Where's Samuels and the other bitch?
get that hazmat suit.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick this shit.
Oh, do it. One. Oh,
I'm kicking it.
wait, you don't have legs. How?
I'm epic. You can't tell me what to do. I'm a gamer. I'm just messing up all their shit, bro. Fuck this shit. It's taking me on a one-way trip to death. Oh, look at that, bro. I should be a soccer player. I just punted it down the fucking hallway.
How do you know you're not?
Shit, bro, you're right.
That's
Do
probably
they,
why you do that.
do they have space soccer? I feel like they
Oh
should.
my god. That would be amazing.
It's
I'd
just
play
like
it.
zero-G soccer. Like, that'd be wacky.
I would play that.
Bro, we're coming up with new sports that haven't even been invented yet. Yo, Elon Musk, hit us up whenever you get your like space shit, like, you know, fully up and running. Hit us up and we'll design some space soccer arena for you. Hey, Taylor, right? Yeah.
Good morning.
Somebody
That was
clip this and
Ripley had
send it
sent
to
me
Elon
home
Musk on
good.
Twitter.
I'm
No.
much down
Wait,
to
no, I think he
moving
deleted his
either.
account.
Sorry. I
feel like death.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you people put up with hypersleep
Whoa,
regularly.
more
You get
text
used
to read.
I don't do long haul very often.
Oh, that's crazy. Look at that.
Most legal execs don't travel further than
Scroll.
the coffee machine.
Scroll
I'm
down.
surprised Wayland Yutani felt the need to send legal at all.
The loss of the Nostromo and its cargo cost the company a lot of money.
She's
It's
being a
important
bitch
to
right
find
now.
out
Hold
what
up.
happened.
Oh my god.
Shut
I
up.
can close the
Can I
case
kick
with a
you?
conclusive accident report.
You're being a
It would
bitch.
look great with my superiors.
Arc?
Chill. Well,
That's
That was
crazy. Man.
insensitive. Realize
Whoa.
your mother has been missing for 15 years. You
Did I just cut her off by leaving? Idiot.
Was mad.
Yeah, she sucks anyway. She's being a bitch. I hate her.
I mean, what do you expect from someone named her?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Hey, Samuel.
He
Ah,
has Samuel.
Ripley.
Hit the button.
Samuels,
Dub.
did you wake up early?
Well, I don't really need
Bro,
as
this
much
is
sleep.
turning into less of a.
I was
Oh,
just inspecting the torrent.
Crunch me, crunch me, crunch me. I wanna get scanned. I wanna get scanned. Can I get scanned?
I
Tommy
realize
is
it's a very similar
time
model.
to advertise this
Minestrone.
bad boy.
Yes.
Hey, stupid
There
android.
was A later pattern, but
Welcome
close.
to the stream, Tommy.
I've worked engineering jobs
Yeah.
on ships like this.
Of
I think
course.
he's gone now. I'm back down to one.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah. Stupid android.
She's not
Stupid
a
android. You're such a
seasoned
stupid
traveler.
android. Stupid
I didn't
android.
see-
Lack of sleep may have been punishing.
Haven't seen
Uh,
her. I'll go check on her.
don't worry about it.
This is less of a playthrough and more of a speedrun.
Well, I mean, for now, because I've already done this before.
Well, then why didn't you continue with your save?
Because they haven't seen this part before.
Well, I mean,
Gotta start over. I seem really tall. Like, I mean, I'm from the cutscene. She looked average height, right? But like,
okay, don't talk about height around me.
but if there's like taller people, they just bonk their head.
have you seen Samuels?
I mean, they do look
probably
like kind
been
of
up for
short
hours.
guys.
Yeah. Xavier dub. Why is everything so big? Seems like it's big. Looks like we're up. Yep. You said that many times. Hey, bitch, I'm here.
That's what she said.
Oh, hey, Will, check this out. Boom. Where was that hand going, huh? Think nobody would catch you, huh? Yeah, well, I'm here. Huh? Yeah. Don't be doing on the job. You're working, stupid. Don't be doing that. That's inappropriate. There's people here. You're on the job, bro. Chill. Whoa. You got a mosquito bite on you? Yeah, mosquitoes
Hope you
suck.
all had a restful journey.
We're in
The torrent was
space.
in very good order.
Yeah, there's still mosquitoes, bro. Mosquitoes are
She was
everywhere.
wrecked
I
when I
know.
bought
I
her.
mean, you're
Took
not
a few years and a lot of contracts to refit. She pays for herself now.
You said we're approaching Sevastopol Station. Are we docking?
I believe your contact is Marshal Waits, is that right? I'll hail Sevastopol and arrange boarding with him.
Come on, hurry
Good.
up.
Let's
Can't
get
skip
this
this cutscene.
Don't worry, Miss Taylor.
Look at that, Will.
Routine.
Look, see
In
that?
and out.
Look at how
Connor,
3D
how
that
we
is.
doing?
That's 3D and epic.
SMG loaded and calibrated. Approach vector
It's
lock.
epic in 3D.
Redcon so I can say hello.
It's Mason.
Channel
He's
open,
describing
Captain.
Can I visit the
Does
core?
everyone have
Oh,
their
I
briefing
can't.
documents?
You
No,
can
I
watch the
don't have my
approach on the
briefing
monitors.
documents. Shut up, I don't care. Got it. I'm gonna follow you. We don't need
Can we see
advertising,
it?
okay?
Switch to monitors.
We don't need.
Your only viewer is me.
See,
Sevastopol
if
Station.
people advertise the stream, then we get fake fans. Nobody wants fake fans, bro.
Is that damn?
We need those real fans.
Looks like damage.
Clearly, don't.
Punch up
have
74,
any-
tight angle.
We don't even have any of those.
Man,
Looks
look
like
at
the
that
dried-out
Atari
bay
screen. How can you
screwed.
tell anything's broken? It
I
all
can't
looks
bring the
broken.
Torrens into that.
There's like a total of 3 pixels in that entire fucking screen.
St. Clair registration number MSV 7760
Zeros calling Sevastopol Traffic Control. We have 3 passengers on a Wayland Yutani Bond. You're holding the Nostromo Flight Recorder Unit. We request immediate permission to transfer the passenger's port side. Over. Flick. This is Marshal Waits, Colonial Marshal of Sevastopol Station. We have a serious situation. Something about lockdown.
Hello, Marshal?
Remember, this is something about
Marshal,
lockdown.
this is the Torrens. Say again?
Watch Thomas being done.
See? Lockdown, I told you.
It's almost like you've played this game before.
That's what, and I mean, not the whole game, only this intro, okay?
The station's
What's
comms
wrong?
seem pretty screwed up,
Oh.
so
Hi,
I
Hellish
fitted
Gaming.
Samuel's
I've already
suit with
said
a
that.
radio booster.
You were too busy rambling on
I
about
can
how
only
there's
keep the
gonna be a
Torrens in
lockdown.
transit for 24
We're back down
hours.
to one
You'll
view.
have heard from us by
Wow, that's
now.
crazy.
What is this, Fallout?
Safe trip.
Is this a deep sea dive? Oh, I don't know.
Stand by. My contract doesn't cover bloody spacewalks. It's the only option. And it's perfectly safe if you do what I tell you.
Depressurizing.
Hating this. Just shadow me, Taylor. You too, Samuels.
Affirmative.
Affirmative.
Shut up, stupid android. You work for the company. I hate the company. They always screw everything up. Why couldn't they have parked closer? Like, do they have to be that far? I mean, they could have just parked like a whole bunch closer. There's nothing in their way.
My God, Ripley.
Ready for this, Will?
You're doing good,
Skadoosh.
kid.
Oh, there it is. Going to break the line. Pay attention to the sound design here. It's pretty good.
Samuels! Taylor! Respond!
What do you mean by that, hellish gaming? Why are we so far? We're in space. Alright. I'll let you get back to me on that one. Well, red blinky light, that means bad, right? That usually means bad. You sure? It's kind of red. A little bit red. Oh, that must have hurt.
Like when you fell down the stairs?
When have I fallen down the stairs?
My house.
I don't remember that too much.
Yeah, I know you don't.
Shut up, Will.
I wanna go home. I'm not sure how to respond to that, Hellish.
Are you okay? Do we need to call the police? Have you been kidnapped? I believe you should be home, unless you're like on a trip, I guess. I mean, maybe then you wouldn't. Alright, let's go. Open.
I mean, if you're in the same time zone as us, why are you out, away from home at this time?
What? I think
Did someone drug you?
I think it's talking about the alarm that's going on. What's going on?
Oh, well, I'm
Maybe.
sorry, I can't hear anything.
Lights. You want me to put it on speakers?
No.
Exactly. There's not much I can do.
Here.
What?
Hellish says Space Popo's here.
Yep, they are, I guess. I think that was the airlock with the sounds though. But you know, you do you. Alright, let's save this bitch.
Why is your arm like as skinny as mine?
Sensitivity and save points is wacky.
Dominator says do face reveal.
Oh.
Gasp. Yeah, see, I did the face reveal right there. See, that was face reveal. She was reacting to the face reveal. It's so epic.
Hellish,
Which?
Hellish says orbital docking is harder than you think.
Yeah,
They also thought your face reveal was epic.
thanks. It said stability compromised. Can I go home? I see what you mean now. I want to go home.
I also want to go home.
Alright, whatever. Let's just sprint. Go! This message being held for review. Oh shit, you sexy ASF. That says show that.
Yeah.
That is epic. Okay, show that. Thank you, Tominator. I am sexy ASF.
Hey, what about me?
You're
I'm
right.
10.
You're
You won't get arrested.
no, you're not 10, Will. Time to crawl in the space butthole. Wait, watch it clench. Watch it clench.
Hellish said that.
Why did I say that?
Wow. Okay, I'm just okay. I see how it is, Tom.
Aww.
Yeah. Who's the higher up here? That's what I thought.
Me.
Who's the higher up next to the dog?
Do I have a flashlight yet? No, I don't. Fuck. Red light. That looks scary. I'm turning around.
Orange.
Are you colorblind?
No, you are. That is clearly orange.
We should do a colorblind test like right now. Alright, next save point. We're taking a colorblind test. Alright, employees only. Let's open the terminal.
Yeah, which one?
Let's see, more stuff to read.
Especially from Event Zero.
Alright, decommissioning. So, boys and girls, what about men and women? Bro, you... Oh God. Okay. So, boys and girls, you've probably heard the whispers about Sevastopol by now. Okay, I've already read this actually. The station's being decommissioned. And we're not supposed to be here. Ooh, more stiff. Employees only. Fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. I don't play by. Oh shit. Okay. We should have listened. We should have listened. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It should have been employees only. I'm sorry.
So much. Oh my god, the nails.
Bro, my nail. Bro, that hurt my nails.
That hurt me and it's not even me.
Where was the chalkboard sound? I feel like it would have been better with the chalkboard sound. You're like.
Oh my god, that would have been horrible.
Ah.
Bleeding nails. That would have made it 10 times worse.
Whoa! Bad word. Bad word. Woo! 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 Oh shit! What did I do?
Hellish said rebel whenever you crossed over it.
Yeah, bro. It's great. All right, flare. What? Map. We got map. Woo! Let's go. All right. Radial inventory. Map. R to activate. Let's turn this on. Okay, that's not very helpful. Oh, okay. Well, the flame picked up a lot, but the light didn't change at all. You're useless. Crouch. Go into the thing.
That is
Oh,
orange.
physics. Physics.
The light coming from
See,
outside.
that is orange. You're right there.
See?
That
See?
that's orange.
I'm glad we can
See,
see.
the handle's red.
Yeah, that's red.
Okay. All
Let me
right.
give the color one.
Ooh,
Those orange, those lights
got some
are
graffiti.
orange.
what does that say? 213X. 8. Someone new. You always know a working Joe. What the hell is a working Joe? I do not know what that is. And I don't know what they are. I don't know them. I don't know them. You lied to me.
Who is working Joe?
You always know a working Joe. No, I don't, bro. You lie. Oh my god, bro. These people are lying to me. What is that? Strangers will be shot. I think that's what it says. That's not very nice. Wall, why are you gonna shoot me? Why are you gonna shoot me, Wall? That's unepic. Wait. What is this? Is that a button? I wanna hit the button. Button. I wanna hit the button. Buttons are cool. Buttons are cool. Gotta hit the button. Oh. Ah. Gotta hit the button. Go for button. Go for button. Wait. RMB aim. LMB throw. Ooh. Yeet.
Dude, I think Hellish is gonna kill me.
Bye. Wait.
We'll die.
Hopefully.
I'm about as dead as your channel, buddy. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Ooh, hey, what's this? Gun! Why do I have so many weapons?
Hellish, I'm not gonna show him those messages just because you were mean to me.
Poppets, bro. Hold up.
Oh, don't do it.
I am currently inside right now. My family is home.
Yes.
I'm about to throw a poppet.
Don't do it.
This is important.
No, put it in the gun thing.
Oh, bro, you're right. You're so smart.
We'll just combo T-Con. Hold on.
Wait, what?
Why did
That
you
is
have to
incorrect.
hydrate?
That is incorrect. Incorrect. That did not happen.
He
That
just
did not happen.
stabbed me. That's what happened.
Okay,
I don't understand how that wasn't flagged.
remove. L. Take the L. Wait, that's backwards. No, that's right. L. Take the
Oh
L.
yeah, 20% bad.
Bro, I cannot open these poppets.
Don't read that last message by Helen.
Alright, here you go.
Oh god.
We have poppets. I don't know why I have them, but I do. Get over here, Will.
Oh.
It didn't work. There's not enough force. Alright, you know what? I'm just gonna
Not again.
snap. I didn't do it.
Oh.
Well, there it is.
You're spelling senpai wrong, Hellish. Get it right.
Bro, I have to put these back in the box now. How did
Senpil. That sounds like something Hitler would say.
Okay, let's not do that.
Senpai. What kind of sins are you committing?
Stop.
I'll spell it out for you.
No. Stop.
Senpai.
You're the worst.
S-E-N-P-A-I.
You're the worst mod.
Well,
Alright.
I'm your only mom.
Alright, let's
so-
go back in. Let's go. Alright. Where was I? Oh yeah, cool button. Button. I'll hit the button. Gotta hit the button. Gotta hit the button. Oh,
But what did it say?
no. Shouldn't hit the button. Ah, alarm. Shouldn't hit the button. It's done.
Yes, you're
They lowered the ramp. That's cool. What's over here? Secret?
Maybe?
Physics. Alright, let's go.
Hey, see that light over there? It's orange.
Where?
Right there. There's an orange.
Yeah.
They're the same lights as before.
It's a red orange.
That is orange.
It's a red orange. Okay, wait, hold up. You know what? I'm taking a screenshot of this. I'm gonna put it in a colored chat now.
It's orange.
It's a red orange.
It is just orange, okay?
That is orange.
That is like a yellow orange.
Yeah.
That, you see that on the wall? That's orange.
Yeah, that is orange. Why is it floating? Ah! Run!
I think we found the alien, folks.
Go, 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 go. Get out of here. Get out of here. Gold
How
light.
did you take damage? Oh, when you like did it.
Yeah, I fucking fell down that thing because the station was angry at me. It said employees only, and what is this? 5 Nights at Freddy's ambient noise? Fuck you. Get out of here. Scrap dub. Door. Yum 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 yum.
Anyone here?
No, no one's here.
He's
Passcode
lying.
required.
I have a password.
I want. Was it the one written on the wall from
Look
earlier?
at this sick meme.
I don't notice anything. I don't think anything's happening in chat right now.
You can't even see the chat.
Update map. I just saw it. Update map. Map. Update map. Ooh, that did something.
Tom, you make us proud.
What's over here? I can't jump.
Have you tried jumping? Oh!
Uh oh. Uh oh. We're back. Is the stream okay?
Yeah. Tom said just got muted for a week in a server for pinging everyone. Rest in peace, Tom.
That's a big deal. Is it working alright? Okay,
Yeah,
we're good.
we're working good.
We're still good. I don't know
See
what I
that
did.
light that's flashing? It's orange.
That's green.
No, I'm talking about that one.
Okay, yeah, that is
And the
orange.
box is orange too.
I was worried.
And that W.
I was worried that blinking light is green. Is definitely green. Okay, use. Use can be taken in many ways. How do you want me to use this? No. All right, hold up. I have actually played this part before. So, why is that so big? That is huge. That E is huge. All right, here we go. I'm missing the button. Fuck. Speedrun failed, bro. I suck.
5-3 in pi. What does that mean?
Alright, well, read this.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, I know what's happening. Wait,
Step
stuff to read.
off the-
Stuff to read. Bro, 0340. Remember that, Will.
Okay.
0340.
Okay.
That's important. Goodbye from Siegson. That's saying that they're retired and you gotta fuck off and find another thing. Audio. Alright, let's go.
Harris, Turner, get back here.
Alright, well,
now.
riff
We
this.
have a track
Riff this.
somewhere in engineering. Lock the
Where you see this
terminal
bug?
down, kill the power, and don't forget your reports.
Wait,
Make them
let's wait
thorough.
till
We're
the
gonna
audio
need our
log's done.
paperwork to be bulletproof when this shit's over.
Wait,
Wait
yeah.
out.
Shut up, Bleeds. Okay, it's actually pretty cool. Whatever. Alright, ready? Go. Run.
I'm going!
What the heck was that?
No! Ah.
What was that?
There's people over there. They're running.
Bro, Hella's trying to mess you up. They put the wrong code in chat. Hella's trying to mess you up. They put the
Bro,
wrong
you got it wrong, bro. Just subtract 10 for that. Will put minus 10.
Alright.
Yeah, it's minus 10. There you go. Thanks, what's his name?
Hella's trainer.
Thanks, Hellish. Thanks for reminding me. Alright, here we go. Dub. Alright, what's in the stash? Boxes. Wait,
They said sorry.
I can kick these, bro. Space Soccer Part 2.
Bro, why is it bright? This is so unlike this
Medkit.
game.
It's not that bright. Flare.
Yeah, but it's like sunny.
Scrap.
Oh.
Yeah, bro, it's the
Hella's
sun.
just excited because they were noticed. I'm about to start calling him fucker because fucker is a gender neutral term.
Shut up, Will. Alright, let's save. Riff this.
Carbon test. Carbon test. Dude, you're gonna trigger my seizures.
Yes. Hope nobody has seizures. Alright, let's go.
Hey, it's colorblind testing.
Oh, yeah. Colorblind. I said we were doing colorblind tests. I wasn't lying. Alright. We're doing this right now.
Oh yeah. Today we'll find out who's more colorblind, Will or Thomas.
Test.
I always call you Thomas on stream, and then in real life I call you T-Com.
It's... I don't know. Alright. Colorblind test, Will.
Oh, okay, I got this.
Okay, here we go. Should we do me or you first?
You go first.
Alright.
You're the host here.
Alright. 7. 1. Alright, easy.
Dude, it was 7.
2. Alright, easy.
It's just numbers and... Oh, okay.
4. Easy. 9. Dub. 6. Easy dub. Obvious. 4.
Do,
3.
do, do, do,
3.
do, 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 do,
2.
do. Thank
8.
you, Hellish. That was beautiful.
9. 6. It's so easy, bro. That's a 9? Yeah, it's a 9.
It's so easy.
6. I got it right. 2. Bro, I'm winning. 7. 8. 5. 4. 1. 2. 3. Normal. I win.
Alright, my turn.
Alright, your turn.
I'm
your
telling
turn.
you, I have good... I'm not colorblind.
I don't know, man.
Alright.
Alright.
I got this.
Alright, well. If you get colorblind, I'm gonna laugh at you so hard. You have no idea how much I'm gonna laugh. Alright, see, this is what you call controls. They're easy. You know, they're very, very different. They're so easy. Alright. Doing good so far.
Four. What's this number?
Bro, I don't know, bro. It's crazy.
Crazy number.
Yeah, it's wacky.
Whew.
Why
Man,
does it
it's
get
so
like
weird.
these really like very different like from the background colors, and it's just like fuck, he's getting all of them right.
Oh!
You L.
It was fine!
It was a
Stream,
five.
I'm not colorblind! Oh, wait.
What if you are?
Oh, a
though?
message from Tom. Holy shit, is that ugly motherfucker in the back, Will?
Okay, yeah, hide that. That's mean, bro. No BM. No BM in this channel, bro. No BM, okay? No BM. What'd you do? You timed him out. No, don't time him out.
Don't fuck with me, Tom.
I'm very sorry, Tom. He's timed you
called
out.
me ugly!
Yeah, he was just joshing, bro. He's just joshing.
Try saying shit again, I dare you.
I'm
gonna get one wrong, and I'm gonna be mad
very
because it was clearly a 5, and
I'm
I just...
very sorry, Tom. Okay.
He's not sorry. He even said
I'll
personally
make
he
sure
hated
this may not happen in the future. That message should have just been deleted. You shouldn't have been timed out.
Still normal.
I very extremely apologize for that. He's fired. No, I'm just kidding. Why did you time him out?
Why is Hellish singing Baby Shark?
Okay, Baby Shark is cringe. 20%, dude, bro, you get $20 off these fresh glasses.
Right, man.
Because
we're colorblind.
well, no, we're not.
Colorblind.
Neither of us are.
Well, actually, put that one picture you got. Is that orange?
I didn't take the picture.
Oh yeah, like you messed up your thing.
No, that was when I just spammed the keyboard and it killed everything. Alright, let's go back to doing what we were supposed to be doing.
I want to mute Tom if he stops doing stuff.
Alright, we're back. We're back from our commercial break.
Timeout. You only put him on more timeout.
Don't put him on more timeout.
I don't know how to take it off.
I'm very sorry, Tom. You'll have to wait 300 seconds.
Don't call me ugly again.
I feel like I don't. Ow! What are these hitboxes? I was saying I feel like I don't want to touch that, and then it just kind of hit me.
Jump over it.
Crouch. How am I supposed to jump over that? You crouch, bro. Bro.
Jump.
I can't jump. What is going on here? It doesn't look like it's supposed to be like that. Yum 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 yum. I'm going, bro. I'm going. Where's the alien at, bro?
What the hell happened here?
I don't know. It looks like it's abandoned. Where's the alien, bro? Where's the alien at? I'm bored, bro. Where's the alien? What? What is this? Ion torch. Bro, what is ion torch? That's so wacky. I need an ion torch now. Zing zang. Alright, we're going up. What is this? Strangers will be shot. Bro, Wall, you already told me this. Okay, I don't care.
Why is this one want to shoot you?
Bro, Illuminati! X. I can't sprint anymore, bro. What's happening? What was that? Scary. Scary. Is that the Torrens? It's Torrens! The Torrens! Hey, the Torrens, I'm right here. Hey, can you come pick me up? Can you come pick me up, bro? Pick me up. Hey, bro, can you Ah! What was that? Oh no. Bro! Verlaine! Bro. Fuck you, station. Uh-oh. The lights turned off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, station. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I heard alien scream.
Ella shed the turds.
Bro, I am scared, bro. I can't get through here. Fuck.
It's okay.
This is scary. It's okay. I can get through it. Wait, did I go the right way? I think I did. Dumb. Bonk, bro. What if I hit my head on that and just fucking got knocked out and got eaten by the end? That'd be so wacky. Bro, let's video game. Let's game. I can't game. It's off. Bro, I can't even game. I can't even game right now. What's going on with this station, bro? I can't game. Why do I keep doing this? What do I do? What do I keep doing to make it do this? Make sure it's alright. Alright, let's use this. Why? Dumb! Ka-chung! Woo! We're gaming. Now I can game. Game. No signal. Fuck, bro. Damn it. Can't game. What's going on? Noise. Swingy light. Hey, what's going on there? Can I see what's going on there? Hello? I don't like it. You can't scare me. Fuck you. Oh, light.
Nice.
Light swinging. Did I just hear a vent close? Bro, I swear I heard this vent like close right here.
Well, I mean, you can open it if you want to.
I know, but I swear I heard that noise like it closing. This is scary. I don't like it. We're getting scary. Let's play. What do you have to say?
Maria Jones, today's update. After numerous demands, Marshal Waits finally called a public meeting to address the rumors that have been circulating on Sevastopol. But instead of the answers we wanted, he continued to be evasive, and after only a few minutes, he and his team were pelted by projectiles from an angry crowd. A gun was fired, there was panic, and now Waits and what's left of his team are forcibly
Hey, this timer is about to end.
Yeah, it's for the audio log.
Oh!
What is Apollo? Apollo is the central AI that monitors and provides guidance for all the Sikhs and working. What are working Joes? You haven't told me yet. To all spaceflight and terminal employees,
I found your baby shark.
in the interest of public safety and the prevention of panic, it must be made clear to all potential passengers that there are currently no scheduled flights leaving Sevastopol, nor ships available. The Colonial Marshals are investigating problems on station and will update accordingly. So basically we're not allowed to leave. Well, I got here, so haha, I win. Fuck you, Marshal Waits. I'm going in. Dunk. I dunked myself.
We're in the end game now.
This is a vent. We just started duel. Oh, swing light. Nope. Bye bye.
Sweetie likes to scare.
Okay, you know what? I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not a pussy. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. I have to game. I have to game. I have to game. There's nothing there! What swung the lights? Me? No, it wasn't me. I was over there.
Up here. Tom said sorry, Daddy T-Conk.
Nah, bro, it's fine.
Wow, okay, I see T-Conk.
What, bro? It's fine.
I say stuff like that, you know, like, mute, timeout. Is Tom, do you have favorites now? Is that what it says?
Apart.
Fan.
Make the wrong choice, I don't want to mute Tom again. Why
Don't
are you at half health?
don't mute Tom again.
I
The
won't.
the I
As long as
fell.
he doesn't say stuff
See, I
like that
fell that
again.
one time, and like the electric cable zapped me.
You
It
got
wasn't
zapped
fun.
by
It
an
wasn't fun,
electric
bro. How are you doing,
Oh,
Hubert?
is that
Your name
like
should be
a-
Hubert,
Is that a Roomba?
bro. It's a Roomba. It has an X on it.
That Roomba's
Are you in a
thick.
gang, Roomba? Are you in a gang, bro? What have I told you about this? What have you gotten yourself into?
Dude, that Roomba
I
looks
leave
like
for 5 seconds, and you.
That
Okay.
Roomba looks like a thick transformer.
I can't get there. I can just jump over that, bro. Why can't? If only I could jump.
Jumping is illegal in this
Wait.
game.
That looks suspiciously like something I should walk through.
Do it.
You get your fat ass out of the way, Hubert.
Use it.
Stupid Hubert. Scrap dub.
Dog.
Noise. Scare noise. Hey Hubert, can you call your gang up? Protect me.
Hellish said, oh, Master T-Funk.
Yo, I don't know what cult shit is going on, bro, but I'm digging it. Keep going. Bro, this is getting scary. What happened here? These things don't just break like this. What was? Oh,
Message retracted. That was from Hellish.
what? You alright, bro? Really, game? You making my character cough right now? This game isn't even scary. This game is not even scary right now.
What happened?
Scary,
I didn't see because you were flipping out.
bro. It's scary.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That was scary, man. Whew, man, that was scary. That light like fell over and it like shattered, right? And what's going on?
I am genuinely uncomfortable saying that's in it sounds like.
All right, Hellish. Cool.
Sub.
I'll keep that in mind. All right. Well, that light got knocked over by some dude running over here, and it was scary, and it scared me. And let's see, destination. Is destination not here? Is that like a thing? Can I get not here? What do you, Will?
Secret finish. Oh,
Wait.
said thanks.
Why are you turning on my studio lights?
Stop ruining the immersion.
Okay, let's see. All of these are not on station. Good. All right. Terminal. Maybe that's to be determined. Maybe it's also. Fuck. Bro, I want to get off the station.
Dude. Look what Hellish. We're gonna die.
Bro, what do you mean, bro? I'm not a false prophet. I never claimed to be one. I'm just. I mean, you guys want to worship me? That's fine. Bro.
Hellish is gonna
I'll
haunt your
take it.
dreams. She's on the ship. Watch out.
What? Okay. Well, that's worrying. Bro, there's a button. Can I hit the button? No, I can't.
Alright, Tom?
Huh?
Who's your lord then? Huh? Ah!
Is it still Cal? What's over here? Desk. Door? Ooh, door.
Doors? Why do doors go up? I feel like it's more practical to make them go to the side. Because you gotta think, there's gotta be a whole room above them just to where the doors can go up at.
Bro, we're in a space station. It's called space station for a reason. They have space. Ooh, another generator. Rear fist.
Tom says you're a prophet to our hearts.
Alright.
Spoken with a 2 minute. Now watch T-Con furiously click this button. You clicked that button, my guy.
Whew, alright. Alright, well. Shh. That's a nice sound.
Hellish, I'm not gonna show that message.
I like that sound. Wait. Wait. Shh. I hear something.
Wish I could hear what you're talking about.
Is that a cat?
Hellish. Really?
Swear, bro, I hear a cat.
I don't hear a cat.
Cat sounds like it's dying.
here.
I think the cat's getting eaten by the alien. Yeah, something's not right with that cat. Uh-oh, it's getting dragged away, now it's getting quieter. Oh, now it's loud again. What is going on, bro? What is this? Maintenance jack. Fuck. Cat? You good?
How do you know it's a cat?
Sounded like a cat. Cat? You good, bro?
Did it meow?
Sort of. Hey, cat, you good?
Hell, if you were trying so hard. You did the 3 this time. Don't read that message.
What'd she do? I'm trying to keep up on chat, Will, and you're just doing this.
I'm sorry.
What's over here?
Alright. I was trying to do it with the 3 this time.
Will, what did you say in
I
chat,
didn't
Will?
say anything
Will,
in chat.
what did you say?
I'll tell you later, okay? How about that?
Tell me right now.
No, they haven't done the deed yet. No, don't look. No, Thomas, that would ruin. It's gonna ruin the surprise. Stop it.
Wait, I'm getting surprised? Bro, I like surprises. Okay, you know what? Since it's a surprise, I'll let it slip by. Alright. I like surprises. Although it's fine, it's fine. Just some air, you know, escaping out of the pipes. Cause that's how space stations, you know, work. So they do. You know what I don't like? That door.
That door is kind of creepy.
Let's go this way. What's over here?
Too bad you can't jump.
It's a window, Will. I can't get through it.
Too bad you can't jump.
Plasma. Bro, where are all these
Why
things?
everything need a plasma?
Where are these plasma torch and ion torches, bro?
That
What
gets
is
through
it?
the creepy door.
I don't want to go to the creepy door, bro.
Creepy door.
It's creepy. It's creepy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Something didn't good happen here. Alright, creepy door. How do you lean again?
Who's M2?
How do you lean? I'm pretty sure you can lean or something.
Oh, me is probably what you're trying to say. Alright, yeah, do it. Bet.
Okay, you know what?
Rock, paper, scissors. Alright?
Creepy door, nothing's happening. What is going on, Will?
I'll start it in the chat.
Alright, you know what? You can handle viewer interaction. I'll play the game. Bro, the cat's still going, although I'm pretty sure it got eaten by the alien. Bro, I swear I fucking saw something. This is, I am...
Put something in or you're getting disqualified.
I am not enjoying this too well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even scary yet, though. Like, I don't know what's going on. Fuck you, Game. Every time I say it's not scary, you do a scare. Bro, this is not okay, bro. What is this? I'm terribly sorry about stepping on you.
Right, Hellish and Tom,
Oh,
neither of you are getting it.
there's more.
I'll receive it myself.
What are you doing, Will? What are you doing in my chat?
Give me a blessing, Tikon.
What?
Give me a blessing.
I want to know what I'm getting myself into first before anything happens. Alright, listen to this voice thing.
Nurse, this is Turner. I found the last power coupling. Took me a while, but it's off now. Just fitting the last security brace. Come find me when you've shut yours down, then we can get the hell out of here. Jesus, man, I'm hearing voices everywhere. Every creak and... Just hurry the fuck up, will you?
Bad word. Bad word. Save. Dumb. Save epic. Ooh. Yes. Save. Thank you for saving my game, epic. Ooh, hold the hide. What does that mean, bro? Hold the hide. What is? Stop touching. Don't touch me, Will. Hold. I don't like that feature. Okay, I'm really not digging that feature. Top 10 reasons why I don't think this feature is going to be epic in late game, okay? Reason number 1. Wait. Gotta get some more information. That is very loud. Number 1, that is very loud. I don't like how loud that is, okay? And I feel like it's just going to add to whatever tension's there, right? Number 2, it's very empty and dark inside there, bro. It's scary, okay? It is scary, like, inside that closet thing, okay? So I feel like that's just another big minus to the space. Number 3, what's the rent in there? See, the rent is a very, like, important situation when you're making property decisions, okay? See, they won't tell you what the rent is, which is making me think that it's going to be a little steep, which is, given the size of our property here, which is about a 1 square foot area, I don't think it's going to be a good investment. Number 4, that door to that thing looks fucking paper thin, and I feel like whenever Alien Man comes out, he can just fucking rip that thing right the fuck off. Number 4. Fuck. Number 5. Number 5, I feel like that in the event that I'm running from something and that hidey hole would be useful, the amount of time you have to hold down E, I feel it would negate any potential positive effects for this mechanic. That's my top 5 on why I don't like this mechanic. Alright. That concludes my top 5 list.
Number 4.
Bro, they're playing chess. Bro, can I play chess? Play
chess. I know you suck at it.
Where are the rest of the pieces? The fucking alien ate them, dude. God damn it. Oh, why is it wet on the ground? Bro, who peed? Who peed on the floor, bro? Who had an accident? Who had an accident, bro?
We did the pee-pee.
What is this?
Wow, your chat is dead.
Reverse, it's Turner. Gotta deal with that wasted asshole again.
Broke.
This time he nearly wrecked the door with a maintenance jack.
Uh-oh.
Guess he figures it's safe here. Wants to lock himself in. Screw him.
We get it.
We got too much to worry about without babysitting drunks. Anyway, I threw him in the evidence lockup. Let the son of a bitch sleep it off.
Waits lied to us. I knew it, bro. I knew Waits sucked. What is going here? I feel like spaceship shouldn't just be leaking water. Oh, I'm standing on the chair. I win.
You were tall now.
Why is there blood in this room?
Dead. I don't think you have any viewers again. No, it's just 2.
More water, bro. What is happening? Open.
Alright.
Uh-oh.
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 Alright, hit escape for a minute.
What's on?
There have been 3 people that I know have watched this so far. Me, Tom, and Hellish, okay? There's 2 watching right now. There's 3 likes. Me, Tom, and Hellish. But there's 1 dislike. Somebody clicked on your stream just to dislike it and then left.
Who disliked this, bro?
I bet it's Mason.
So
the
sad.
thumbnail.
So sad.
I don't know what that is, Hellish, but I'll show it.
So sad. What is it?
Hellish did some weird thing.
I don't know what that is either. Bro, what is going on in chat, bro? You guys are just bumping.
No, they're not. They're very quiet.
Chat's just going at it, bro.
Dead. I mean, Tom left.
That dude is also dead.
Like the channel.
Godward. Uh-oh. Hey there, bud. You doing alright? I don't think you're doing alright. Bro, more water on the ground, bro. What's going on? Bro, boombox, boom. Gonna play some tunes. Bro, is that an Atari? Bro, no Atari. Bro, calculator. Hold up, I have that fucking calculator. No shit, I have that calculator. Where is it?
Hellish is the one that disliked. Hellish, you absolute mad lad. I'm not gonna ban you from the shit.
Bro, where's that? I have that fucking. I have that calculator. Where is it? I want to show you. I legit have that calculator.
Where be calculator? Oh, is that it?
Yeah. Look at this, bro.
It's freaking epic calculator.
Turn on the light.
It's like.
Yeah.
There you are.
Look at this. Bro, this is the... It's the same... this is the calculator.
Hellish,
This to work.
why do you like this, Hellish?
That's wacky.
Wait, now how
Who
much
stole
time
my
they
fucking
disliked
calculator?
twice and then liked? How does that make sense? 'Cause you saw
My
the
pop
dislike.
filter came off. No, turn the light on and put the pop filter back on.
Alright, so it wasn't Hellish you disliked. They just randomly added. Hellish, stop sending penises.
Bro, stop. That's not that is unepic.
Why would you do that in the eyes of T-Conk?
Bro, I fucked this pop filter up. I took it down, bro.
You fucking obliterated it.
Shit. Maybe I should pause it. There we go. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you agreed to stop, Hellish. You make me proud.
Thank you. See, this is character development. Here on the T-Conk channel, we are concerned about everyone and how they can grow as a person.
Yeah, like stop disliking T-Conk videos.
We're glad that we could help you grow in any way. Except when except if you grow for the worse, then that's not epic. But you know, whatever. Can't help. Moving on. All right, pop filter is back.
Lights off.
Yep, turn the lights off. All right, we're back. All right, what are we doing? Yeah, I feel like that's something we need. Can we get that maintenance jack? What is the lean button? Oh, there we go. Can I lean through this wall? I want that. I want the maintenance jack. I want the maintenance jack. How do we get in? The door's locked, bro. How do we get in? Oh. Hey, that looks like something. Let's go into the van. I don't like vents. They're scary. Top 5 reasons I don't like vents.
Hellish, can you grammar?
Alright, let's go in the van. Alright. Nice. I don't like how it's sparking, bro. That's scary. That's big scary. Whoa, oh, blood. Bro, it's blood. It's not epic. Oh.
Ew.
Now I'm stuck. Oh, wait. Maintenance check required. Well, lucky me. There's a maintenance check right here. Give me
No,
that.
you can't, human.
Gimme. Bro, let go, bro. Bro, oh, hey there, roaches.
I think I need this more than you do.
Yeah, I do need it more than you do. You're fucking dead, idiot. 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 Can I melee you? Can I melee you? No, alright. Ooh, ID tag. I don't know what you do. Alright, play.
Nice, Tom. You have my respect.
The highest authority,
What's going on?
Oh, he heard your check his message, so I can't tell you.
What do you say?
I don't know what he said, man. It's a mystery.
My complaint is
What's
this.
this say?
The message is...
Fucking marshals. They should be protecting us. It's their
Who,
job.
who's fucking... Hold on.
Something's on this station
Oh,
where
it's that
You
guy.
can listen to that for a
no one
second.
fucking knows.
Dang, it's 10% battery. I might have to,
The doors
stop
locked down.
talking.
You know, I have to keep something out. I'm fucking terrified, man. I'm fucking... Shit.
Alright.
So cold.
Cool.
So I think this fucking thing even works.
Cool Lost Vein. D. Benivetti.
Benavity?
Bro. That's a
do you have
wacky
some-
name. That's so wacky.
Okay, Hellish is on.
Alright, let's remove that brace. Bonk! Bonk! You got bonked out. Whoa,
Do you
right
have
here.
anywhere close I can plug my phone into?
Did it do it? Dog! If you get a cord, I can plug it in. I don't have a cord.
Thank you. Take my cord.
I don't want it.
Hellish said, let's bonk T-Conk. Tom says, say boobs and start crying violently. It's a breast cancer awareness video.
I feel like that.
T-Conk approves.
No. No. I feel like that might not be the best idea.
Hellish, yes, I like your idea. Let's bonk him. Real hard.
What is happening? Why are you making me do this? You do it. I'm supposed to be gaming, bro. I'm gaming. I'm supposed to be gaming. Why is that cart in a different spot?
How'd you know it was in...
Bruh!
Bro, go in.
Why? Why you move? That is scary. Ew. Bonk.
Hellish, I like that idea, but we can't.
What is happening, Will? Yeah, nah, that's not happening. That's not happening, I'm sorry.
That's where the tag went.
What about?
Hellish says thanks anyways. So the only two active members of your community are Tominator and Hellish?
I guess. But you know what?
I think it's maybe because you're streaming at 12 at night or in the morning.
That's fine, bro. That's fine. They are true fans. They come to see me game on this epic game. See, now, I appreciate you guys coming out at this such late an hour. It wasn't a great idea to stream at this time, but I appreciate what.
You want to know how I got to edit the stream now? Alright, we're about to edit a video and everything, and all of a sudden he's like, dude, you want to stream Alien Isolation?
Yeah, see, we were gonna edit a video, and I didn't want to, so I decided to start streaming.
This was like 2 hours ago.
They're gonna beat him up, bro. Did you read that?
No.
They're gonna kick his ass.
Oh, hell yeah.
Bro, flogging is great. Isn't flogging so epic?
Why is every horror game the same? This is literally Somalia.
I don't want to bonk that. Isn't there some more things? Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry, dead bodies. I'm pretty sure there's more stuff over here I could bonk. Hold up. Hold up. I knew it. Bruh. Chunk. Bro, don't you just love the sound of like freaking solid steel being placed on the ground completely silently?
Yeah, I love it.
Alright, what's over here? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got?
We haven't had any big spooks yet, so like.
Nothing. Well, yeah, bro. We're still in like the prologue.
Oh no, Hellish is losing connection.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Did I kick that kid? Why are you doing what? Alright, I think it's everything.
Hellish, what do you mean by we're losing connection?
Is something going on?
Is Hellish a collective?
Do I need to fix something?
No, you're good, because it's going fine on the phone.
Alright, this looks like a big door that looks like something's gonna happen here.
What is this?
Oh, this looks like something's gonna happen when I hit E on this. Let's go.
Hellish?
I knew it! I knew it! I knew it.
Hellish,
Alright, shh, cutscene, cutscene. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Stay still. Okay. Okay. Now turn around.
Uh-oh.
Come on!
This looks like it's about to be some r/guro shit right here.
Where'd you come from?
Guru. It's about to be some r/guru shit here, bro.
There are now. Well, that's good news.
You bald
Those things
fuck.
are not so good here.
Idiot head.
Something blew just now. Rocked this whole place.
Mhm.
Saw it.
Yeah. It's crazy. What are you looking at?
Lady. That's the least of our problems.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Something's on this station. Something you wouldn't believe.
Why do you have to be so cryptic?
Like what?
Tom says to hit.
You get it?
Okay. Asked if you powerline.io.
Why does it gotta be so cryptic, bro? What is going on?
Hellish also asked,
What's your name?
do you JSAB?
Axel.
I don't know what that is, bro.
Hellish explained.
EVA. We got
If it gets
separated
flagged,
by the
I'll show you.
blast.
No.
Can you help me find them?
Then I'm not gonna show it.
What if it's something else
your way
worse?
around.
Well, I mean,
What's in it for me?
Whoa.
Place
Bro, I
on
just
the
looked
ship.
back at this big face in my face really scared me.
I know I can trust you.
I need to find comms. I need to contact my ship.
Bro, this mouth like animation is not going too well.
Do you JSAB just shapes and beats?
This is your lucky
Is
day.
what JSAB means.
Beep boop triangle.
Seeks and comms is in the Cystic Spire. It's quite a distance, but we can get
I
to
hope
transit
that's
through the
the
freight
answer you're
area.
looking
But watch yourself.
Hold on, I swear I can melee.
for. Can you melee?
I
Oh,
swear.
I should have been doing this in VR.
I don't want to do that. Yeah, I didn't make any changes.
Tom says to tell the man that he is gay and that he is the killer.
We can
What?
get into all sorts of
I don't
trouble
know.
here.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tom.
I don't think so. I mean, alright, if you say so. Bonk. Let me just turn my back to him then.
Come on, I don't want to stick around here long.
I'm working on it, bro. Chill, bro. I'm working on it, bro. Kurt Strong. Alright, we get open. Fans.
Is that you following me back there?
What is
Had to keep my distance. Can't take any chances.
Oh,
Stick close to me.
What?
Hey, don't move.
Whoa.
can I just do this?
Oh, okay,
Hey
okay.
guys, what's going on?
We're not looking for trouble. Who are you?
I'm John. This is Ringo.
That's not
We're
it.
just
No,
some
that's not right.
assholes. We haven't got time for this. Come on, Jenna.
We're trying to get to comms. Can you help us?
We don't need their help.
Yeah, I mean, we should stick
Don't tell
together.
them anything. Look, I've got the
Like,
elevator
we should
working.
stick
Jenna,
together. You know,
let's go,
safety in
okay?
numbers.
I'm sorry.
No, guys, just stick together. Have
You
we?
aren't smart, okay?
Have we all lost our sense of like what to do in like a horse? Okay, bye.
Wow, okay.
What the hell was that about? Why are you so damn aggressive?
See, I'm with Lurper here.
Everyone's running shit scared. Keep it to their own. Safe.
Elevator.
Hello.
I feel like it's not safer that way.
Yeah, probably not. Have you ever played a horror game before? This room is dark.
Scrap. Oh, he's gone. I should follow him.
Probably should. Or you can just ditch him.
Can I go in the elevator? These people. Okay, no. Alright, let's go. I guess we have to follow him. Stupid, stupid head. Stupid head.
Hope this ship of yours is the real McCoy.
No, it's the Nisadora. I think it's it. No, the Torrens. It's the Torrens. It's not the McCoy. It's the Torrens. Idiot.
And your chat's dead again. Hellish, say
Hold up.
something funny.
Let me get the elevator.
No, I want to get the elevator. I want to get the elevator, bro. I want to get the elevator,
Allow me.
bro. I want.
This is all. Needs a special touch.
I want to hit the button, bro. I'm gonna hit the button. Okay, hit the button. I'm gonna hit the button. I want to hit this button. I'm gonna hit this button. I'm gonna hit this button. You can't stop
What are
me.
you
Alright.
waiting for? Hit the button.
I did, idiot.
Idiot.
Keep the noise down here. There might be people around.
I'd appreciate it if you told me what the hell was going on. Right now.
Listen, darling. When we get to the ship, we can kill back, braid each other's
You don't have any hair, stupid.
Damn it, Hellish.
Yeah, when we get to my ship. I need to know what's going on.
That's
Right
something
fucking
funny.
now.
Not bad.
Like I said, there's a killer.
What does that mean?
What does that even mean?
Oh, hey,
I
Ripley
ain't
said
seen
it.
it, but it's here. Picking us off one by one.
What are you saying? A psycho?
I said
person?
text
No,
Hellish
something else.
in
A
chat.
monster.
Hellish.
Whoa. They give me. Alright, let's go.
Also, Hellish is mute. What? What do you mean?
What?
Shit, we need to move. This way.
Let's go.
Get down.
Get down.
Bullshit.
Hey, guys.
Should be looking for a way. What was that?
Oh. Don't worry, it's fine. Hey, guys, what's going on?
We got an intruder.
Oh.
You
No,
done
you-
being autistic
Mhm.
now?
No, you don't. Yeah, there's no true. There's no true. It's fine. It's fine. Hey, guys, what's going on? Ah!
Trouble. We'll have to go around them.
Yeah.
Follow me.
What?
Go. Open the fan axle. Oh, go.
What is it?
There's people there. They're shooting at me. Ah, go.
We'll get it one day.
They're shooting at me, bro. I'm scared. I shouldn't.
Friends of yours?
I shouldn't. do it.
Tom said Skyrim hiding.
They don't like strangers.
Hidden.
Even nice guys like me.
I'm shocked.
I pulled your chain, darling. You want to go and say hello?
Yeah, I tried.
Hero. Those guns aren't for show.
Yeah, I know. I
Someone should
tried.
be doing something.
They are. It's called surviving.
Okay, I don't want to survive. I want to live. There's a difference.
Everyone's turning on each
Wally
other.
quotes.
The fear
Wally's
makes
great.
people crazy.
It depends on what way you look at it.
Wally's great.
Wally's a garbage machine.
I mean, yeah.
You've been living here?
Don't hate.
What can I say? My butler's on holiday.
So
Grab what you
funny.
need. Don't know when you'll get another chance.
I can't grab any of this, Axel. You idiot. You forget I'm in video game.
Been hunkered down here for a week now, waiting for a ship. Waiting
Tick,
for
tick,
you.
tick, tick,
I
tick.
guess.
Tick, 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 tick.
It can get pretty dark around here. You should take that
Flashlight.
flashlight over there.
Flashlight! That's not a
Make sure you stock up on
flashlight.
batteries.
I mean, I guess it might be a flashlight. Whoa. Why did you scare your son?
Whoa.
Why
You
just-
put thing on.
Just be careful not to flash it around.
Epic.
You don't want to get caught.
What?
Let's go.
What was that, Axel? What was that, Axel? Fuck you, I hate you. Save. You can't tell me what to do. You don't control me, you don't control me. You don't
I think it
control
does
me,
control
Axel.
I think you've had enough.
You don't control me, Axel. I can do what I want. I'm choosing to follow you. I don't have to.
I mean, I want to progress with the game.
What now?
I'll watch the vent. There's another vent right here somewhere. I marked it so I wouldn't forget it.
If you marked it, then shouldn't you know where it is? Why do I have to find
How
it?
about you look around?
Alicia says,
We're not gonna
hi.
Hi.
All caps.
Alright, where's... Oh, hey, I found it. Bro, I'm
Axel,
looking.
is this it?
Hold on.
It's locked.
Bruh.
Axel, it's locked, you idiot.
Probably gonna unlock itself when he gets over here.
Yeah, probably.
Alicia asks if she can talk now.
I knew
I
it was
mean,
here somewhere.
the fucker can talk
See?
now.
Got it covered.
Don't call the viewers fuckers, bro.
It's gender neutral. What do you want me to say?
Chat.
They?
Chat. Viewers.
Chat.
They. Anything
We should
works.
call him Chet.
No. Chat. He opened the vent hole. He hit that button right there and it opened.
Alicia, why would you not be able to talk? I'm very confused.
Yeah, bro, it's fine.
Elaborate.
Don't feel intimidated.
smart to stay
We're
here too
here
long.
as, you know, a group of friends. All 4 of us, 5 of us, I don't know.
There's
You
like,
know, just chilling.
yeah, there's 4 of us.
Go faster.
Here.
Just those that want to stay alive, sweetheart.
Don't call me sweetheart, it's creepy. I want to look at your ass. I'm walking backwards.
Where did he go?
Torrens,
I
so
blinked
that's your
and he
ship,
just
huh?
vanished.
I don't want to look at his
Quiet.
ass, so I'm walking
I hear
backwards.
something.
Quiet.
Get that flashlight off.
Okay, well
I
I
hear
know
you. Will do.
Alicia's proper.
I
Gotta
can't
go
turn
meet the
it.
others. Something's
I
going
know
down.
Alicia's gender now.
Something's going on. Something's going down.
Come on. We don't want to piss him off. Feels like we're standing around waiting to die.
Follow me.
I am following you, stupid Axel.
Alright, so I know
Wait,
Alicia's gender
we were just there. Why did we have to go all the way around? Can I go in the elevator? No, I can't. It's so sad.
Alicia is an attack helicopter.
Well, that's crazy.
What's
That's
the proper gender?
Don't shine that flashlight.
Tom, I
Mom.
like your attitude.
what's going on.
Tom's in a cheerful mood.
Hey, cheerful mood. I always like this. Quietly.
What's the gender pronouns for attack helicopter?
What's the emergency?
Stupid.
Someone else has been here. Everyone stay alert. Keep your guns tight. Shoot anyone you don't know.
I'm going this way.
Stick around while I check our stock.
Stupid can't have. That's kind of weird to use.
Station feels like a graveyard, huh?
And Tom, okay, it's 2019. Get with the trend, buddy.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going over here. What's over here?
Find a way to distract the looters.
Alright.
You went from no interaction to like all the interaction.
Where is it? Ooh, button. Ooh. Hey guys, what's going
Oh,
on?
you can distract them now.
I don't know what this does, but I'm gonna move some buttons. I'm moving some buttons, and they aim their guns at me. Going on.
Better run. We do trannies.
What's going on here?
So your
Stop.
Your pronoun is
Stop.
trannies.
No. Okay, Will, you can't say that on stream.
Wait, what does that mean?
I'll tell you later. You can't
Why
say it on
did they-
stream. Remove it.
Why didn't it get censored then?
I don't know.
Doesn't seem to be broken.
Yeah,
How
just
would
say
you know,
timeout.
Einstein? If the generator had blown, that's why we've got guns.
Oh, hey guys,
Help me
what's
find
going
the
on?
switch to get it started.
Hey, they saw me. They saw me, Will.
They're still close by.
Yeah, I know this is close by. They shot at me. Safe, 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 dog.
How should
Wait,
we
sorry.
F them?
Nice work.
Okay, I'm kind of not liking the way this chat is going right now.
It's not the chat, it's just Hellish.
Nearly there. Transit's just up
Well,
ahead.
it's 50% of the chat right there.
Actually, it's what's
Sebastopol not quite what
33.333 shit.
Yeah, what is it?
supposed to be here.
What is
My
this?
shipping papers were for a week ago.
Alright, if you want to read this, you can go ahead. I'm not reading it. It's probably useless anyway. Oh. Sensor item max. Look, I want to make how to make stuff. Ooh, I can make stuff. Medkit, bro, medkit. I need medkit, don't I? Yeah, R. Chunk, dub. That was a wacky effect. Drugs are epic. Take drugs, kids.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing.
Get out of the way, bro, you stupid Axel. Can I hit the button? Why can't I go hit the button? Bro, this
I'm
game's...
1/3 of the chat. Tom says there's only 2 people. What about me, bucko, huh? I'm part of the chat.
The assholes have cut us off.
Ah, the assholes have cut us off.
Got it. We need to activate both consoles at the same time to open it. I'll do this one. You go to the one.
How'd you figure that out, stupid Axel?
Tom called you retarded.
Bro, that's me! Why would you say that?
I can't believe Tom did that.
I can't believe
You made him cry! Look what you did, Tom!
I can't believe there's a
piece of trash! Can't believe it. Such
Ready?
a horrible human
On
being.
3. 1, 2, 3.
Uh-oh, hey Axel, there's some behind you. Axel, there's someone. Uh-oh, hit from behind.
Oh, nice subtitles.
Need to save Axel.
Fuck you! Get here now! I've got the thieving son of a bitch! You bums think you can take what you want? Get
Yeah.
the fuck off me!
LMB to melee, alright. Crit chunk. Oh, I hit him. Bro, that's crazy. Oh, no. Ah, you killed him, bro! You killed him! Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
The others are on their way.
Uh-oh.
We need to go! Now!
Yeah, we do have to go. Go, get me out of the cutscene. Run. No crouch. Run. Uh-oh, bye-bye.
Shit! I think he's dead. They killed him.
Hey, I'm gonna apologize, okay? You have to apologize whenever you do something wrong, okay? I'm
Hellish
sorry.
just gave me, like, amazing facts.
don't like
Mirrors
that.
are just walls that say no you. And then Tom
What in the
Tremendous
fuck
said
was
you
that?
will.
What was that, bro? Bro, why did you scary noise? I don't like
Wait,
that.
what was Tom's name on the server?
Come
What
on!
was that? What
What
is...
was that?
You killed
I
that
think it was
guy!
Kid.
Because
It's
he
like
was
Kid,
going to
not
kill
Tom.
me! You saved my life!
I don't like this.
This is
Rape.
about survival.
Rape. Where's rape whistle? This is a gun. You hear something? You hear something?
I hear something.
Yeah, you hear something.
Here's
You hear something.
Axel. If I go on me.
Bro, really? Now is not the time to be doing that, bro. Uh-oh. 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 Will. I feel like it's starting to get to the scary part. I feel like I'm starting to get to the scary part now. I feel like the prologue is kind of over. You know, I was getting real comfortable with being nice and no alien. You know, just being nice, chill, and safe. I'm not feeling too epic anymore. I don't really like this too much. Stream's over. I don't like this too much. All right. I don't know where we're going. I'm running. I'm getting out of here.
What's that thing?
I don't know what that thing was. It was probably the alien. You know, we're in alien isolation. I don't know. Restore power. Restore power.
Wobbler, wobbler, wobbler.
I got.
Bye.
Go, go, go. You gotta get I need to get out of here, bro. I need to get out of here.
Hellish, where are you leaving? We need your views.
Bro, I need to get out of here. Scary. Oh, bro, this is scary.
Bye to Hellish.
Bye, Hellish. I don't blame you. It's getting scary. I wouldn't want to stick around either. This music. I don't like this.
Tom says, well,
Hurry up.
well, well.
Hurry up. I don't know. What is happening? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do?
What? Really?
Shut up, Wells.
Get out of my chat.
Shut up, Wells. This is scary. I don't know. This music.
Oh, Hellish is staying.
Is that my heart or the music? Oh, hurry up! I swear it. There it is! There it is! I need to get there, I need to get there, I need to get there. I need to get there. I need to get there. Hurry up! Open the door, open the door, open the door, open the door! Open the door! What did... Go! Open the door! Ah! 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 Ah!
What? Oh, no.
I don't like this. I don't like
I
this.
didn't hear, so all I heard was you screaming.
I don't like this. No. I don't like this. Move slow and quiet. I did not do that.
You didn't.
I did neither of those.
Woo. Jesus.
Fuck!
What do you want, kid?
No, that was big scary. Big
Hellish is
scary.
staying, by the way.
Alright, thanks for sticking.
Baby Rage Pop Jam.
Alright, I'm back. We're back. Alright. We're back. We're back.
We are back.
Alright, I have changed my diaper.
Yo, legit, he has a diaper on right now.
No, I don't. Yeah, I have changed my diaper. I've got apple juice. I've got apple juice in my sippy cup. See, apple juice.
Hello, Apple.
Because I'm a baby. Alright, well, let's move that to that side.
Hellish says welcome back.
Thank you, Hellish. That was an experience. I gotta say, not necessarily a great one. Oh, hold up. Hey, Will, don't talk loud for a bit. You guys like that? You guys like that?
Tom says he baby daddy.
Alright. I'm back. We're back.
We're back.
It's fine.
We're
It's
back.
fine. It's fine. I'm all good. I'm not.
Why is the face cam in a different spot?
I'm not scared at all. I'm not scared at all. It's fine. We'll go back. You know, we'll go back. You know, we'll do it. It'll be fun.
Pissing about.
Perfectly fine.
Nice work,
Who
Ripley.
disliked the video?
This way.
Tom wants ASMR.
I have to do this so. Yeah.
How much further?
Tom wants ASMR.
Nearly
Guy.
there. Transit's just up ahead.
I want to do this again.
Just hope your ship's still
I mean, you
there.
kind of have to.
Sevastopol not quite what you're expecting yet.
Thomas.
Hmm?
I'm
You
not even supposed to be here. My shipping out papers
No.
were for a week ago.
We're not doing ASMR. I'm sorry.
But do you have pickles?
No.
Okay. Oh, Hellish wants ASMR too, man. I mean, you gotta give the fans what they want. They've been so loyal.
I'll do that next video.
Next video, your
It's fine.
upload schedule's like once every 2 years.
I uploaded yesterday.
What'd you upload, huh? Like Golf with Friends?
Yeah. Get out of the way, Axel. You're just standing there. What do you want me to do? I can't advance.
Hey, guess how many views your video yesterday got?
2?
7.
Whoa, 7. That's wacky. Get out of the way, you stupid idiot.
Stupid idiot head.
How long have I been streaming? An hour, 2 hours, almost an hour and 50 minutes. Alright, it's fine. Get out of the way, Axel. I'm gonna fucking...
Stab.
What do you want me to do, game? I can't do anything. Game, what do you want me to do?
Oh, Hellish said that they subbed. So you should do ASMR.
Hey! Thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. I already said I'm doing ASMR for the next video, just for you guys.
When's the next video coming out?
Minimum of 2 weeks. Minimum of 2 weeks, alright? Minimum of 2 weeks, next videos come out, next video's dropping, it's gonna be ASMR just for you, alright?
We should do it while we're staying at the hotel.
This is a one-time thing. I'm taking requests, and only that request, and only like 10 seconds ago when Will told me you want ASMR, alright? You're welcome, alright? Don't say I never did anything for you guys. I do everything for you. I love you. I love you. Alright, no fanfic.
I'm gonna write one now just because you said that.
I can't get through this stupid Axel, bro. I hate Axel. He's the worst character.
He's crouched. Have you tried crouching?
I have to load save, bro. This is so sad. This is so sad.
Hellish said that, I can't say that word, they love you too. Let's...
Nah, I'm sorry.
How much further? Nearly there.
I'm sorry. I'm not interested in a relationship right now.
T-Kong doesn't like the bomb, but I can tell you can also subscribe to T-Kong.
Yeah, you can subscribe. I dabbed. What if I book?
Committed a
What have I
In the
become?
stream right now. Stream.
We're back. Just joking, just joking. Stream's not over. Don't worry.
Don't leave.
Well, yeah, we're still streaming for a bit. No, Axel, you don't go get in front of me. You'll fucking stop right here.
Dude, be careful. Hellish said that their dad owns YouTube. Make ASMR video.
Bro, I am.
Dude, you get
chill.
free monetization. Do it. Do it right now.
Hey, I'll do 2 ASMR videos if I get monetized, right?
Got it. We need to activate both consoles at the same time.
Yeah, you monetize me. I'll do anything you want.
Okay.
Hellish says video or forced labor camps.
Ready. On 3. 1, 2, 3.
You did that you like you couldn't hit me before.
Behind you.
Axel, behind
Go, I
you.
can't move. Hit from behind. Days grown. Where's Days grown? Days grown. There it is. Fuck you. Get me right now. I've got the bonk. Ruthless. Got him. Idiot. Loser.
Let's go. The others are on their way.
Look at Tico.
We need to go now.
Oh.
Hey, you bastard!
Yeah, we need to go. Hey, idiot.
Shoot him!
That's you can't. You catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
Hey, idiot.
Move it!
This door closes.
Something's moving around out there.
Shit, I think he's
Yeah,
dead.
idiot.
They killed him.
Yeah, we did, idiot. We killed him. Why is there scary noise? I don't like it. Oh, it's not an epic scary noise. Oh, I can see him die again. No, we don't. Skip. Sorry.
Hellish says Rufus.
Alright.
You say something.
We're,
Are you in love?
we're back in scary mode. We're back in Scary Town. I don't like Scary Town.
Wait, did it kill the guy already?
Yeah. I don't like Scary Town. I know what we gotta do. We gotta hit the button. Right. Bonk. And then this time, don't panic when it gets here. Look, I'm right next to it. It's fine. There's no way.
You got this.
There is no possible way I can panic. No possible way.
No, you're not gonna shoot yourself this time.
Yeah, I am unable to panic in this
A-okay.
situation. Okay, there's no possible way I could panic ever. Okay, it's fine. I'm not panicking. See, I'm just chilling here. Just chilling. I'm just chilling here. There's no way I can panic. Just waiting for the thing to come in. What's that? I'm panicking. No, I didn't read the message. I heard a bonk.
Oh.
Like,
Let's have smacks.
I'm sorry. I'm still not interested in a relationship. Especially right now. I'm probably gonna be impaled by an alien at the end. It's here. Go. Dub.
Wow, Hellish is much more active than Tom. Hellish is like your most active fan, besides me.
Thanks, Hellish. We're out of Scary Town. This is the train out of Scary Town. Oh, didn't mean to. Where's my apple juice? I need my apple juice. Apple juice.
Don't drink it all, you don't have any more after this.
I'm good.
Hellish says hell yeah.
I'm back. No, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Don't leave me. Come back. No.
Take a look at Hellish's channel.
Please.
You have a video from 1 year ago called Mumbo Jumbo Slime Army, and a video from 10 months ago called Cats. Alright, I'm clicking off the stream for a bit to watch the cats.
Where do I even need to go?
Bro, why are the cats fighting?
Safe.
Oh my god.
What are you watching?
Dude, the thing is getting murdered. Jesus.
Will's watching Cats by
Hellish Gaming.
Hellish Gaming. That's not even gaming.
No, look.
Yeah, it's not gaming.
Oh, I see what you mean now.
It's fine. Cats are epic.
But why? Are there any comments on this video?
Where do I need to go?
Somebody commented saying PlayStation.
I think I need to go this way. I'm scared to
Bro,
run.
give the cat a pet. Heck yeah. Alright, I'm going back to the video.
I'm scared to run. Because alien's just gonna... Ooh, that door's locked. Alien's just gonna come out and impale me again. It's gonna be unepic, and I'm not gonna like it. If I... next... Okay, you know what? I'm just...
I'm pretty sure Hellish just commented on my video saying I can't talk. I have those chat memes on, like you can see those?
Yeah.
Oh, no!
It's fine. He's a little slow. It's fine. Bonk!
Alright, how do I'm gonna have to... I'll do that later.
Good chunk. Got it.
Tom said, stop destroying them. Hellish said, I am your most active fan. Hellish said, no thanks. Tom says, well, let's play Russian roulette. Hellish asks how old I am. Now, I'm not supposed to disclose this information, but I'm 15.
Okay.
Tom,
Well, isn't
I'm
it...
so up for that as long as the gun is fully loaded and you go first.
I don't like what's happening here. I do not endorse the participation in the game known as Russian roulette.
It's modded Russian roulette. You don't got
Work.
anything to worry
It's
about.
not working. Hey girl.
Hellish is laughing.
She's a gun. She's a gun.
Shit.
You missed, idiot.
Tom, I actually really like that idea.
Over here!
Maybe
Someone's here!
Like,
Bye.
talk to Elon Musk about it.
No, not over here. Don't worry about coming back. You don't have to come back. What is she doing over there?
Hellish, why are you ha 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 ha?
I don't know what's going on. Ooh, play tape.
Marie, listen to me very carefully. I want you to leave work now. Collect Claire, pick up the cat.
Pick up the cat. Pick up the cat. Pick up
What's
the
American
cat.
roulette?
Pick up the cat. Pick up the cat.
Is that where we shoot the schools instead?
No, Will.
Cap, weird smell.
You're the worst.
He had something in his coat.
The only reason you still have kids.
He just looked right through me. Don't talk to anyone. Don't tell them where you're going. I'll meet you as soon as I can.
Weird smell.
Pick the cat. What is she doing here? What?
And access to.
Oh! What is it? What is it, Thomas?
Bruh!
Alright, Hellish, I'll do it. Hellish wants to play rock, paper, scissors. Alright, Hellish? Alright, just type in the chat when you see this, okay? Wait, okay. Wait! Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
What are you doing?
I got paper. Fight me.
Look at this. This is literally like exactly like the model that's like there. Look.
Hellish, I'm pretty sure I won.
Here, I'm going back.
Yeah, they chose rock. I win.
Just trying
Look,
to hack.
look, it's got the knobs and everything. It's literally the exact same thing. Look at this. Look, it's got the
Yeah,
thing
but it
on.
doesn't have a wire.
Bro, they're stealing my stuff. This game is stealing my stuff, bro.
It's self-aware. I'm sorry, Hellish. Now you have to, I don't know, do a tap dance.
What are you doing?
I don't know. They lost to rock, paper, scissors.
Ooh, that's an L.
That's a big L.
Alright.
Did you not think to turn the light off?
No, I didn't.
What's wrong with you?
Thanks, Will.
You make me do everything.
Yeah. Alright. Let's go back to what we're doing.
A
What
rematch?
what were we doing?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh. Yeah.
come on.
I was just scavenging. You should take that chance. Don't kill me. What did I just say? Bro, these people don't listen.
This way. She was downstairs.
Idiot.
Well,
Stupid waffler.
alright, let's go again, Hellish.
I hear noise.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Is there anyone here? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hey there, bud. You don't see me. You don't see anything. What are you doing?
I won again.
Hey, you alright? Oh.
What was that?
It was nothing. You don't need to worry about anything, bro. It's all good.
No thanks.
It is all good. There's no. Ooh, flare. I can use this. I can use this.
Bruh.
Hey guys, what's going on? Where'd you come from? Ah! Ah! What's what? Ah! Bye bye. Ah! Fuck. Everything just went wrong. Nothing went right there. Shit. I'm so bad at this game. Alright. Alright, run it back, run it back, run it back.
That's a nice flare.
Run it back.
you got there.
Run it back. We're trying this again. Alright. Run it back, run it back. We're doing it right this time. Doing it right this time. Alright. Speedrun, speedrun. We're speedrunning. We're speedrunning this. I went the wrong way!
Speedrunning, you said.
It's fine, it's fine.
Rematch, okay.
I was just going this way to collect the stuff anyway.
Shoot. Then I got you that
I was
time.
okay, I didn't collect any of that. Shut up.
Sorry, I won again.
You don't need to be that loud. Okay, yeah. Good job.
I'm jump scaring the audience because you're not doing a very good job at it.
Yeah, okay, this game, I guess it has like a slow
Also,
start. It's fine.
Hellish, how old are you? I don't think that's how you spell scissors.
Scissors, bro. Scissors are epic. Rock. That's how you spell rock. I don't know about you, but that's how I spell rock.
Did it off cam. That's a lie. Rewind it. You'll see. Actually, I'll rewind it.
Open. Hey, what's this? Fancy overhead. What does that do? Oh, it locks it. Bro, that is epic. That is what I am talking about, bro. Emergency override is bumping. I like emergency override. Well. Hey, are you gonna shoot me again? You are. Don't shoot me, idiot. I hate you.
I may not be 9, but I
Over
look
here!
like I'm 9.
Someone's here!
No, nobody's here. Yoink. Yoink. Yeah. Can I make anything? I can make it. Nice. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Craft. Ooh, I'm crafting. Crafting.
You doing a craft?
Crafting.
What are you crafting?
It's intense. It's intense.
Oh, what'd you craft? Medkit? I am 9. Thank you, Hellish. Very cool.
Thanks for joining in on the stream.
Yeah,
This game might not be made for 9-year-olds, but
Tom
that's fine. Oh, Tom's
Pretty sure
gone.
Tom's gone.
And access to
Back down to one
she was trying to hack the elevator security.
Yeah, we also like,
Circuits
but
of
we
Frank.
just have that just like,
The one in the dirty baseball cap and weird
had
smell.
Data
what?
He had something in his coat.
Who are you?
I think it was a gun. He just looked right through me.
That
Don't talk to
unlikely
anyone.
video.
Don't tell them where you're going. I'll
Oh,
meet you as soon as I can.
well, you took a hit.
Drugs are epic.
Yeah.
This way. She was downstairs.
No, I
Hellish
was...
says they want to see livers flying everywhere.
What? Flying everywhere?
Livers.
What does that mean?
She wants to see internal organs fly everywhere.
Look at that flare, bro. Isn't that flare crazy? Go check
Yeah,
out the
it's epic.
flare.
Epic flare time.
Go check out that flare. I don't want to kill anyone, okay?
I have back pains.
Bro, I'm sneaking.
You doing a sneak?
I'm so good at sneaking.
Doing a sneak.
Yeah.
Alright, so have we decided where we're stopping the stream at?
Well, when my apple juice is gone.
I like it.
When my apple juice is gone, the stream is gonna end because I have no more apple juice, and apple juice is required to stream.
Yeah! Have you not streamed
Ma-
before?
Need my apple juice.
apple juice.
Apple juice. Oh, people! There's them.
I'm not going down there. No way.
Why not? What?
She's got your hack tool.
Why does she not want to go downstairs?
It didn't work.
Hellish
We'll
wants to
find
know
another
where
door.
is my
We've been here
door
too
at
long
Titties?
already.
Somebody's been visiting our sex girl.
What's that?
Hide that message. You're not. Chill out.
Alien. I hear alien. I don't like this. I've got so much apple juice left.
The stream's never gonna end.
I don't like Alien. Alien's not cool. Alien is very not cool.
Alien does a stab.
He does do a stab. Sometimes I think sometimes. Yeah. So I think sometimes he does a face munch, but I'm not sure. Ready for this slow wiggle?
You didn't even wiggle.
This is slow. I like that.
Ooh, look, it's a gun.
I like that. For some reason, I think it's gonna do literally nothing against the alien, but it'll do pretty good on the humans, I think.
Guns do well on all humans.
Yeah. Who are working Joes? We still don't know who working.
Alien?
Noise?
Is the cat?
No, it's not the cat. Unless the cat weighs like 2 tons. Maybe.
I mean, it depends on what you've been feeding the cat, man.
Garfield.
John, I'm sorry. John, I'm sorry.
ID tag. I still don't know what they do, but.
Hellish says gore and titties. Gore and ritties. Thank you, Hellish. Very cool.
I'm sorry, that will not be featured on the stream
Hellish
because
says, I mean
I can't.
titties. I mean, if you want. Ah! I hit my knee. Oh my god.
I'm fine. Oh.
That person's not fine.
I don't think he's doing too well.
No. Go ask him if he's doing okay.
Hey, you doing alright?
Might be a Soma.
Yeah. Oops.
This entire game reminds me of Soma. I mean, horror games are too similar.
Soma is a great game.
You should stream Soma after this.
I don't have it.
Oh, you don't have Soma?
No.
Wait, what happened?
Discord Nitro ran out. This is free trial, remember?
Oh, yes.
I should buy it. Soma's a great game, though.
It is. It's creepy, though.
It is. It's also a big thonking game, and.
Yeah, you have to be a big. Good game.
What is this place? This place looks like a dead end. It's a circle. What's in here? Oh.
The flight recorder.
Hey, we're here to. Aren't we here to pick that up? We win. We can go home.
Win the game? We can go?
We can go home.
We can leave?
What?
What are you
What?
typing?
Uh-oh. L. No data. It's dead.
Ew, man.
Bro, who corrupted these files, bro?
Probably that alien dude.
Bro, this is not cool.
It was the cat.
This is not cool. This is very not cool. Bro.
That's a not okay moment. I can't believe somebody would do that.
Oh.
Hellish says, oh, love funking people.
Green.
Why is
Green.
it every word you type? You hide the word over?
Green.
Green?
I like this. Alarm. I don't like alarms. Go. I don't like alarms. Can you get... What is that? I think I can do that.
Tom said... I'm not going to tell you what Tom said. Thank you, Tom. We all do that.
Okay, one more thing. How does this work? So...
You have a good night's rest.
I did it! I'm epic, dude. I'm an epic gamer. I'm such an epic gamer. I don't like these alarms, Will. I'm really not liking these alarms. Oh, another thing. I'm so good. I'm so good.
Tom, you're gonna kill me.
What's in here? Ooh, yoink. What's that? Yoink. Hey.
Why is Mason gonna like
the alarm
till
stopped.
last day to come?
Oh yeah, the alarm stopped and the music's, you know, dying down. I like that.
Marshal Waits. This is Chief
It means
Porter
you
and Tech
killed
Support. Look, there's nothing on this flight recorder, Waits. We've broken God knows how many corporate confidentialities.
Can we take a minute to look at how much
zip.
items you have left?
Nothing except the Whaler Utani logo and an empty readout.
Thank you, Hellish. That little face is much appreciated. We keep those, you know.
Let me see.
We put them on a wall.
What was that? What was that sound? It was behind me. I'm saving. You can't. Nothing. Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Okay, I want to leave. I want to leave. What is that? Oh, I can't leave. Are you kidding me, bro? I can't leave. Vent. I'm going to the vent.
Oh yes, the vents are good places where aliens. Whoa, case. Case.
Yo,
Case. Case.
I don't know what's going on here. Oh, can't make it. Bro, I got so much epic
He was
stuff.
lying to me. I have 3 people commenting on the video, but there's only 1 person watching, and that's me. What is
I don't know
this?
what's going on.
YouTube.
What am I doing?
You making a smoke bomb?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Bruh. Maybe you can like hide from humans or alien like that.
It's probably what I mean, yeah. That makes
I
sense.
mean, or you could just throw it and put it in someone's
This
mouth,
is-
and then fill their
okay.
internal lungs with smoke and then kill them.
That doesn't sound very cool.
But I mean, it gets the job done. It's very on time. How do smoke bombs work? Do they explode?
Why are you looking at me?
Well,
I don't like it. Can I get in here? Ooh, I can. I don't know what's in here. It looks cool.
But like, do smoke bombs explode, or do they have little holes and smoke comes out?
Well, real smoke bombs have little holes that come out of the bottom, but most smoke bombs in most games like explode into the thing. Ooh, a spinny light. I like spinny lights. Spinny lights.
They're epic.
Spinny lights are very cool.
They're
Ooh,
amazing.
alarms
Oh,
going off and
perfect.
stuff. I'm just gonna read this computer. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not that big.
It's fine. That. That's such a big article. Nope. Nothing. Alright, cool. What do we got in here? Yoink. Okay, I got some stuff. I'm gonna equip this revolver. Oh, does it? Hey, look. That's what we need to do, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's what you need to do. Another one, except it doesn't have those eyebrows this time. It's a Lenny without. That's kind of
Alright.
creepy.
Alright. Do your thing. Nothing's happening. Oh, noise. Vent noise. Let's go. Uh-oh. No, don't. Go back in the vent.
Oh, we get to see you.
Go back in the vent, please. Go back in the vent. No, go. No. Go back in the vent. Get it. Go away. Go. Shoot. I don't like you. I don't like you. I really don't like you.
Man, it's crazy.
Oh.
Happy one,
God, that is terrifying. They did a pretty good job on the alien. It looks scary. Oh, we win.
Woo!
What do we do? What do we do now? Why are there drums? Why are there drums? I don't know what. He's in the vents.
You got recording ASMR right after this.
I'm hearing the vents. I don't like it. I don't like this. I don't like this, Will. Will, I don't like this. I don't like this, Will.
If you die, I'll give you a clap.
Well, now I want to die.
Find a way to kill yourself within 20 seconds.
I feel like I also don't want to do it. Noise. I'm not liking this one. I won't conform to your challenge, Will. I'm not gonna die. I'm a gamer. I don't die in games, bro. Except those like few times that I did.
No claps for you.
I told you I wasn't gonna die, Will. I don't die in video games. I'm a gamer.
Banning you from chat for 300 seconds.
I don't think you can.
I'll check.
Why is-
All the way up.
Why is this door locked, Will?
Well, I can't even scroll up that far.
Will, why is this door locked? It wasn't locked before. Why are you locked? I feel like something's gonna be behind this door.
That's
It's
an
scary.
elongated Lenny.
Let's
But
do the
it's not
thing.
smiling or anything. Sad Lenny. Mad Lenny, even. It's tired of this shit, Lenny. What's the name of Lenny?
I was right, Will. Will, I was right. I was right, Will.
The cops will be dying, so there's no point in trying to.
Will, I was right. Something is behind the door. It is alien.
What is this, Soma?
Or he's killing it. She? I don't know. I was running. Oh, that dude got wrecked.
Hellish remembered the code for that door from earlier.
Thanks, Elish. I really need that right now. I'm not liking it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go?
It did a diss.
Where'd it go? Where'd you go?
Where did I go?
Where did you go? Right there. Where am I supposed to be going? I don't like it's. There's nothing here. You're supposed to. It's right there. I'm not liking this. I'm very not liking this. Is that it? I think that's it. Going there. I'm going there. I don't know what it is. But I'm going there. I'm going there. You can't stop me. You can't stop me. I'm going here. Why'd you do a death scream? There's literally nothing.
Alright, I dare you to not drink apple juice for 2 minutes.
Can I get some right now? Like,
No.
It's already started?
Yep.
Alright, fine. Bro, I love my juice. You can't do this to me. Noise! Noise, 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 noise. Plasma torch. Whatever, it's fine. I'm not liking this music. I am. Don't come through there. Don't come through there. Okay, it's just me. It's just me. Fine. It's fine. It's just activated on me. Nothing's going on. It's fine. I feel like I don't want to go up there.
Probably not.
Please don't like be right outside the vent when it opens, alien. Alien is in the vents. I can hear him in the vents. There he is. Say there, bud. Alien's there. He's kind of chilling right there. He's right there. You think he's gone yet?
Stop stalling.
I think. You think he's gone?
He's gone. He's gone.
Alright.
He's for sure gone.
Alright,
Let's run out there right now.
He's for sure gone. For
Run
sure
out
gone.
there.
He's for sure gone.
No doubt about it. Run out there.
Okay. Hack the elevator. This is the elevator, right?
Yes. Alright, you can have
Are you
apple
kidding me? There's a vent right there,
juice. You can
bro.
have apple juice now.
Go. Do the thing. Do the thing. Hurry up. Hurry up. Do the thing. Do the thing. Do the thing. Go. Go. Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry. Open the door. It's okay. It's okay. I heard noise. I don't like noise. Noise is not epic.
You can have juice now. I think I got a notification. I can't tell if those are.
Whoa! People running. People running. Hey. Hey.
Hell, you have a lot of different money faces.
Is that a map channel? Map.
Map.
Where am I, bro?
It's the map.
Who are you? You don't look very epic. He does not look very epic.
He doesn't. Looks like that one guy is like, oh, he's alive. Oh.
Do you think that's a working joke?
Respect from that, Hellish.
Hey.
My name's Ripley. Amanda Ripley. I need your
It's a
help.
working joke.
Take a seat.
Someone will be with you shortly.
You're creepy.
No wonder Seegson is losing the tech race.
Alright. See. Alright, this gag's old. No. I hate aliens, bro.
Synthetics are designed to be instantly recognizable. Surveys have shown that consumers are often uncomfortable dealing with advanced human real androids. Seeks and Working Joes are unmistakable, so you always know exactly what you're dealing with.
I want to do a tutorial.
Be reassured. That's the
I should have done the tutorial. What is
user
this?
comfort is our priority.
Do I need that door access? I need that. I feel like I need that. Oh, cool, it's that door. No access. Well, you know what? I'm accessing the. You can't stop me. Okay, I see why air purification was a good thing to have. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that back on real quick.
For your comfort and reassurance, our Working Joe synthetics are designed to be instantly recognizable. Surveys have shown that consumers are often uncomfortable dealing with advanced human real androids.
Alright, I think we're good.
Joes are unmistakable, so you always know
The event just sucked it up. Sucked up all of the stuff.
Take it off.
That's the Seegson promise. Your user comfort is our priority.
Thank you, Seegson, for having our comfort your priority. I think that's what he
How
said.
to eat children. It will not work. What the heck?
Will, what are you doing? What are you doing over there, Will? Whoa, Will.
Ooh,
I get to smack him.
do it.
I don't want to
Bet,
smack
shoot
him.
him. Shoot him.
I need to get into comms control.
Oh,
it's
it's an
urgent.
That is a restricted area.
It's an emergency. Don't you realize what's going on?
Apollo has the situation in hand.
No, it
Your
doesn't.
registration is almost complete.
Forget it. I'll find my own way in.
Wait, so that dude down there was actually like doing something. He was registering me. Bro, I should have just taken a seat like he told me to. I'm sorry, Android
I
man.
wouldn't advise it.
Is that a threat?
You can actually learn to listen.
I'm sorry, bro. I was sitting down, like he wasn't saying anything. I thought it was done. I could go. All right, what's going on up here? What is that? Motion tracker.
Some kind of tracker.
Oh no.
It's been modified.
We have a motion tracker, bro.
Oh no.
Ah! No, don't. Nope, we're good.
No problem.
Alright. We're good. We're all good.
Oh, I closed the drawer.
What does this terminal do?
Terminal. Hey, is anybody still watching this stream? Like besides me?
I don't care about any of this.
I think they all stopped watching your stream.
That's fine, bro. I'm gaming.
I didn't wake you because I knew you'd try and stop me. Please
You're almost on the
best shot. Someone
Stream's almost over. Sorry, guys.
we need to make sure
Well, I
the
mean,
officials back at
who are
home
you
know what's
talking
going
to?
on here.
Yep.
Nobody else here.
I'll be back.
You're alone.
I'm not gonna leave you clear alone.
Nobody watches your videos.
You're so rude, Will.
Dude, we're ending the stream like we began. With
Apple.
no viewers. Completely different mindsets.
Yeah, you keep trying to roast me, and I'm positive. Keeping it positive.
HIV positive?
No. What?
A positive on your test. A plus.
These things. Ooh,
You
hey.
go, man.
Whoa, that was a big.
Being A plus and being bad at YouTube.
Why is she so rude to me, bro?
You know what
Door.
I don't mean
I need a door.
You're
I
my
need a door.
favorite YouTuber.
Shut
I
up.
can't imagine anyone better.
Let me in. I need to contact my ship.
Why not, stupid? Dog bro, I'm in.
There's gotta be another way inside.
I win. Find another way inside. Alright. It's probably over here. I mean, this is the only other door. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Whoa, whoa. That's different. I win! I'm epic. I'm epic. I'm gamer.
You're epic gamer.
Time to steal stuff.
Like flashlight batteries.
Hitting all the buttons. Alright, we crafting. I'd be crafting. That's gotta be some kind of Minecraft parody, right?
Probably.
Item max, bruh. I don't think any of you guys are gonna be useful, so I'm just gonna not. Alright, time to go in the vent. What are these? Bullet shells? That's fine. In the vent time.
Let me pass. It's me, Hughes.
Ooh,
Don't you
whoa,
recognize
what's
me?
happening?
Listen to me. We've got to re-establish long-range communications.
You're becoming hysterical.
Hellish
Get back!
asks
I'm warning
if you can talk on Discord.
Tech. Uh oh, you shot him. Shit. Uh-oh. I don't think this is gonna end well.
Probably not.
I don't think it's gonna end well. This is not gonna end well. Oh, he's dead. He's so dead. Oh, crunch. Oh, hey, there's your gore, guts, whatever. When he's not doing too well. I don't think he's doing too well.
You know that that's over. Hellish
Bro
said, "Can we talk on Discord?"
Yeah, I mean,
They also said thanks.
I've got my Discord server.
Join the Discord server.
Bro, who left the strawberry jam on the wall? I told you guys that when you take out the strawberry jam, make sure to put the lid back on.
No, it's not a strawberry jam,
Bruh.
it's ketchup.
Whoa.
What are you
Avoid detection? I don't think...
Whoa.
Okay, that's probably gonna detect me. He's, Hey, bro, you good? The back of his head looks perfectly fine.
Magic.
I don't know what I just took, but I just stole all the stuff.
Black magic.
What do you do? What do you got? What do you got for me? What do you got for me? Hey, camera feed. Camera feed.
Camera feed.
Did I do it? I think the camera's off. I think I won. There's probably more stuff to loot up here, right? Oh, there's a dude. It's fine. He doesn't see us. Bro, I can't loot anything. This is so sad. This is so sad.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be maxed out on anything.
Oh, there's another one. There's another one.
No.
Alright. There's another, stupid head.
Stupid guy?
Yeah. You think those are the working Joes?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. They're scary androids. Of course there's gotta be scary androids in a sci-fi horror game.
Wouldn't there be?
Hey, look, the camera's dead. Camera's dead. Dun 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 dun. Stupid camera. Alright. Time to go to the elevator.
Weren't those one people, like, doing the elevator thing forever ago?
Come on.
Yeah, come on, hurry up.
When you get to a good save
We're just
point.
bumping. It's probably a safe point sometime, right?
Probably.
I'm out of apple juice.
No, you never found it in the apple juice. So you don't have to end it.
This. Well, I'm out of apple juice. Sorry, you know what that means. It's time to end the stream. Hey, look at that, there's a safe point right there.
Nice. This was a good stream.
It was made for this, bro. It was made for
It was
this.
amazing.
Wait, she's talking.
We streamed for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think it's a really good time. It's like pretty much almost exactly 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Well, now it truly is an isolation. There's no one here. Alright, well, save game. Alright, well, with that, I'm at Apple Juice. Just saved. Someone just died. I dropped my apple juice. It's a perfect time. Or it seems like a perfect stopping point for the stream. So. Yeah. Well, just gonna. There we go. All right. Well, I'm glad everyone stuck around. Hope you enjoyed.
Bro, why your face look like Phineas?
Hope you enjoyed stopping by. And I don't know. Make sure to watch the ASMR video when it comes out. It's 1:30. I'm tired. I'll see you later. Bye. I hit the wrong fucking button. Shit.
Dancing on my own when you spilled that ramen coke on my t-shirt. Yeah, your eyes made it difficult to get my baby. And the next thing I knew, we were so ready to give in, skin to skin on that baseline. Ooh, you give me that high-pitched feel, baby. We shared a cigarette by East Versailles. The way you looked at me, couldn't say goodbye. And whatever you did to make it stop, 'cause baby, you make me feel something. And the next thing I knew, we were so ready to give in, skin to skin. And the next thing I knew, we were so ready to give in, skin to skin on our baseline. Ooh, you give me that high pitch feel, baby. We shared a cigarette by East Riverside. The way you looked at me, couldn't say goodbye. And whatever you did to make it stop, 'cause baby, you make me feel something.